Hey, welcome to the Vector Accelerator podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Scott Schimmel, and I'm here with a good pal, Greg Sisa. Greg, good to see you. I put on my suburban camo for you today in honor of you and supporting the troops. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about where you are, who you are, and maybe why you're here.
Well, Scott, thanks for having me, and thank you for supporting our troops with your suburban camo.
Mhm.
You are an urban warrior, officially, I think. So, but anyway, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. As you mentioned, my name is Greg Sisa. I'm the director of development for the Warrior Heritage Foundation up in Los Angeles, and we're actually the official military nonprofit of Los Angeles County's Department of Military and Veterans Affairs.
Jeez, that's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
What
It's a
does that mean?
mouthful, and listen, Los Angeles County has one of the largest populations, of veterans in the entire country. Got over 200,000 veterans
Whoa.
up here, so it's a tall task to serve every one of them. But we're grateful to be a part of the operation of Military and Veterans Affairs and celebrate the success, of veterans in Los Angeles County.
Yeah, I don't think of LA as a military town. I think of San Diego, I think of San Francisco, I think of other places, but certainly not LA. That's kind of surprising.
It is surprising, but to the urban theme is where your urban camo there, right? We have the urban veteran up here, right? I mean, it's San Diego. You're very spread out. You obviously have the ocean. You have a major base there. A lot of people don't think of LA, as you said, like a military town, but we have several bases in Los Angeles, by itself. You have LA Air Force Base, in your El Segundo. You have Space Force. You have
Right.
Edwards Air Force Base up in Lancaster.
Okay.
We've got Coast Guard Base. And then of course we have a lot of aerospace engineer and Northrop Grumman's of the world. The defense contractors. So it's a heavy, veteran population, and it's just it's a huge city, right? So everyone gets lost in the mix.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear about what you all are doing, but I also want to talk about you and your experience in transition. And I think you and I met 5 years ago, plus or minus, I guess way more than that because of COVID.
Yeah.
It's been 5 years since COVID. So whatever, do some math. When did I meet you in comparison to your transition? Was it right at it?
I think it was a little bit after my transition because I had gotten out of the Navy. I spent 10 years in the Navy.
Yeah.
Most of that time was in the SEAL teams, as you know.
Yeah.
And I got a great job right out of the military, right up at a commercial real estate firm, up in Beverly Hills. And it was an amazing opportunity. Actually, when I was transitioning out, I was kind of, I was an instructor at Buds.
Okay.
And I was, weighing the option of, am I going to become an officer? Because I'd already had my college degree at that point. Should I put in my officer package or should I get out? I had two really great deployments, or two really great, platoons I was a part of.
Yeah.
And I loved my time as an instructor. I learned so much there. But at the end of the day, things started slowing down overseas a little bit.
Yeah.
And I got that job opportunity up in Los Angeles. I made it very easy to make the jump right up there. So that was in 2016 is when I officially turned full-time civilian. But that, as easy as it was to from a transition point to move from one job to another, right?
Yeah.
That was just one piece of the puzzle. I think the difficult part was, it came after that. The things that you don't really think about, right? In transition, like, hey, I just, our family together, we didn't like talk about it too much, like what it looked like, right? It's like, hey, we got a great job out of the military. Here we go. Let's go to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you're kind of up there in a big city, alone as a family. You don't have that network that you did when you were in the military, and so life becomes a little more difficult at that point. Even though you have a good job, it doesn't solve all life's problems at that point.
When in that context did you get married? Was that before you left the Navy?
Yeah, so we got married it was before my second deployment. So it was 2012. So my wife, at the time she had already, when we were dating and engaged, she had already been through, deployment.
Okay.
She'd already been through the training cycle,
Sort of.
been through all the rigors, of everything. So, I know, all of our military spouses are a lot more tough than we are, in dealing with all that and everything that happens at home. So,
Yeah. I don't know the answer to this at all. How did you find that job in Beverly Hills?
oh gosh, it actually happened through a good passion of both of ours, Scott. It was through golf.
What? Yes,
It
come on.
was. It
There's
was
a
through
golf
golf.
podcast all of a sudden. Let's
I
go.
know. So, I can attribute my transition to a wonderful round of golf. It was at a club up here in Los Angeles. The president at the time had invited a bunch of Navy SEALs up just as like a day out, like let's go golfing,
The president
and of the golf club at the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so I happened to be in his group, and we had just a phenomenal friendship following that round. Stayed in contact. Then he was the general counsel of the real estate company I ended up working for.
Okay.
So he talked to the CEO, and they brought the executive team down to Coronado
Huh.
to do a tour of the base and go around town, do some activities, and they involved me in every piece of it. So I developed some relationships there, and they ended up giving me an internship prior to working full time. So my last year and a half in the military, I would go up basically once a month to the office and figure out what's going on. And they listen. They did the company's Kennedy Wilson. They did a phenomenal job of just bringing me in and saying, "Hey, you have an opportunity here. If you want to take it, great. If not, just know that we're here to support you and all your friends in the military, because we just are grateful for your service, and from our standpoint, we're doing what we love to do, and in the military, and we're grateful to have that support on the outside and build friends on the outside." So
That's it sounds a little too good to be true, Greg.
it's like I said, Scott, that part of it was the rosy part of it, right? And then the thorny part of it, right? That kind of comes afterwards. All the things you don't really expect.
Yeah, we've talked a lot, I guess, in the vector world about 3 key things that military service offers. And again, I'm an idiot. I'm an outsider. Once a civilian, apparently always a civilian. But these 3 big things: identity, purpose, and a sense of belonging. Many people have pointed, who are smarter than me, done a lot of research, would say those are actually like psychological needs. Like those are prerequisites to doing well. And I would have, having known you and other people in the SEAL teams, like there's to a very high degree clarity on all 3 of those things. You've got an identity, you've got a sense of purpose, and for sure you've got the team. And then upon transition, there's a sense of transition. There's a loss there, and then ideally there's some version of a replacement. But I'm curious your thoughts on, like, as you're talking about the sticky points, what of those 3 was maybe the one that tripped you up the most, or tripped you and Paige up the most?
Okay, I think. I mean, there's obviously a combination, of it, but I would say more than anything, it's I probably the belonging part of it, or maybe a different word was just having like a sense of community.
Yeah.
Right. And because in the military, I'm just going to say probably in general, right?
Yeah.
When you're with your friends in the military, you're constantly having fun, telling stories. Like there's an awesome rapport there. Something that I didn't necessarily have. In that first job, I loved all the people I worked with, but it's just a different mentality, a different feeling. And that's the sense of community. Yeah, it was a great community at Kennedy Wilson.
Yeah.
Just a different one, from what I'm used to.
Yeah.
Right. Where, in the platoon space in the SEAL teams, like even when work's done, you're sitting there having fun, telling stories, for hours afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Right. and you just don't have that type of camaraderie.
What
Right.
did
So it took a long time to really get that, and a lot of different parts of the journey, to establish that too.
when you would when you would sense that, what would that like cause you to do? Would you feel regret, like maybe I made the wrong choice? Would you feel isolated? Like how did that come up?
I never felt regret. It was never me, because when I made the decision to get out, like, it was mentally my time
Yeah.
to get out of the military. There was no question about it. So it was never regret. Um, but I think some of the people in the company could sense it a little bit with me too, right? Including the ones that I knew the longest, which was at that time the CEO and the general counsel, and like my mentor, like my great mentors in life and in
Yeah.
business. Um, and to that point, one of the tasks they gave me within the company, probably about halfway through my first year, was to start developing a network for transitioning military veterans,
Hmm.
throughout Los Angeles County, to try to find jobs to place them in.
Hmm.
Right. So that was kind of like something I would work on the side. It's when I didn't find the purpose, or when I didn't, have that sense of belonging or that community to
Yeah.
lean on, I would start working on that task
Huh.
to kind of, pick up my spirits a little bit, keep me motivated. And we build out portfolios for a bunch of different, transitioning service members, and maybe what jobs might be available. So we congregate a bunch of different opportunities, to put in front of them, and take a look at their resumes, and you review them with people in the company. And that eventually turned into a whole bigger thing,
Yeah.
which you were a part of,
Yeah.
Scott.
And that's how we met. Good friend of both of ours, Mike O'Dowd. Shout out Mike O'Dowd's Defense Strategy Group. He's like such an Instagram star now.
He's
We knew
crushing
him
it.
when.
He is crushing it. I'm so happy that he found
There's
that, like, his passion. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, that's how we met. Was you were in the beginning stages of kind of taking what you were doing by hobby, let's say, and formalizing it. Talk about like how that came to fruition, how that even, I don't even know the story. I just knew, hey, there's this guy named Greg. He's starting this transition program.
Yeah. So what was, as I mentioned, like, the thorny part of the transition, right, started coming afterwards. And there's tension in the household, and it's like, where are we going right
Yeah,
now, right? Like, we had a definite path in the military. Where are we going right now?
yeah,
And my wife Paige, her favorite place in the world is San Diego. Whose isn't, right?
yeah.
But now we're in the concrete jungle of Los Angeles, right? So we both lost, to one of those three elements. We both lost, like, that sense of purpose and belonging,
Yeah,
right? So that can boil up pretty quick.
yeah.
um and so I started calling uh, a few of my great friends that had also transitioned out,
Mhm.
to say, hey, I'm experiencing this stuff, both personally and with the family.
Mhm.
How are you dealing with that, or did you experience that? Of course, every one of them, to a man, was like, yeah, we're experiencing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So when I was developing his portfolio, when I had that tasker at the real estate group, it took a shift, and I started writing a different plan,
Mm,
more for like a family plan, like
mm.
a program that was designed to address everyone in the family in the process of transition, to make sure that the family is a cohesive unit, has a cohesive plan, moving forward into their transition, in order to be as successful as they possibly can be as a unit.
Yeah.
And the CEO of the company, he and I talked about it, and he was a trustee at USC at the time, and he helped develop the plan. And eventually, he's like, I want to put this at USC in the business school, and I want you to run it.
Huh.
Um, uh, so we pitched it to USC, and they accepted it. And so I made my shift from the real estate group to USC to build a program that we called With Your Shield, which you were a big part of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the point of that program was to prepare and strengthen the entire family for the process of transitioning out.
Mm.
And USC is a perfect place to do it because obviously it's a prestigious university.
Yeah.
But it's got such an unbelievable network, a great like support system, which is what helps us out as service members transitioning, is to have that type of support system.
Yeah.
Um, and they are super military friendly
Mm.
also, which
Oh,
is an added bonus. They got a bunch of programs there for us. So, but we're grateful to get connected with you, Scott, because you had a big part in helping the individual service members and the spouses, tell their stories and talk through, some of their, concerns and what their path should look like moving forward.
yeah. What I think you were able to create there for a few years was a really bizarre kind of upside down world that doesn't normally happen, where, like you said, husband and wife were coming together and with other spouses, with other couples, and just like talking about all the real stuff and talking about the stuff that doesn't normally get discussed unless you're really lucky and maybe you stumble upon a friend and you have a nice moment. But you actually created this like culture where that's just what you do here. You talk about all the stuff that you're worried about, concerned about, things that you want, struggles in your marriage, struggles with kids. And then you also wrap that with people that had, not just street cred, but professional creds to help them think that stuff through, from finances to all the stuff that we're talking about now, like identity, purpose, and community. And then the career stuff was phenomenal. Like the people that would show up to get to know sincerely these folks who were transitioning and just be like, I'm here for everything. Let me know. Like, I remember talking to so many, particularly the guys that were going through With Your Shield, and they would say it almost felt unsettling or weird how supportive people were, because it's just not what they anticipated in that transition. It feels like you're going to be all on your own. And then there was all these people, like lots of them coming out of the woodwork and like, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And then they just would feel kind of bizarre about it. Like, and I'm like, no, trust me. Like that guy over there, Bob, like he's like, he's very serious. He will help you. And it's actually a joy to him. It's not like him doing you a favor. So yeah.
I mean, to that point, like that's, I think that's a big key when, that was obviously a huge like key to the success of the program, as it was running, was you have to surround it with people that care, right?
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, the program, it was a pilot program. So we initially offered it to naval special warfare service members.
Mm-hmm.
And, your special warfare, it's a different, different, culture, a highly motivated culture.
Yeah.
And, it's, you'll have a lot of people that just want to be involved to some degree.
Yeah.
Just because it's naval special warfare or any, special operations, branch. So one of the tricks is finding the people that actually care, not the ones that just want to be associated. Right. That are going to dive head first and that are going to pick up the phone whenever you call, and be there to help out, families and talk through, life decisions or financial decisions or career decisions. Right. You're like a true mentor.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, that's hard to find. And that we just really tried to find that balance of people that were highly successful and then people that were, coupled with the mentality of wanting to dive headfirst into, helping out all of our families involved.
What, as you look back now, you've been doing this transition work for years. What do you feel like are the big needs that you're seeing right now as patterns? And you've also broadened your focus to not just work with naval special warfare or special operations, but all veterans. So what are you seeing as like the big needs, the big trends in the transition space?
That's an interesting question. With Your Shield was one of the only programs in the country, that focused on family. we did a bunch of research, and there weren't a whole lot of them out there. There were programs that helped out spouses,
Yeah.
but there weren't a lot of programs that brought the entire family into the classroom, into the
Mhm.
space together, to have conversations. I still think that's a need.
Yeah.
And in fact, over the last several years, I've gotten a lot of calls about how to incorporate that into a program or how we
Mhm.
did it. Um, but I still think that's a need. I probably, from a service member getting outside of the house, I think there's a expectation management,
Mhm.
right? That probably needs to take place a little bit,
Mm.
right? And in a positive and a negative,
Yeah.
for the better and for the worse.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you have every chance to succeed outside the military. Your family has every chance to
Yeah.
succeed outside the military. And you will succeed outside the military. You're right. 90+% of veterans are just crushing it,
Yeah.
across the country. Um, but there's also the expectation of life is a journey, of course, and things are
Mhm.
going to take a lot of twists and turns, and I mean, you might have an awesome experience like right out of the gate at some point. That that roller coaster is going to go down the hill a little bit, and then you got to pick yourself back up. And
Yeah.
right, I mean, I'll just throw it out there. Right, I'm on my fifth position since being out of the military.
Yeah.
Right, so it hit, so it takes some of us some time,
Uh-huh.
and but you gain a lot of experience in the process, right? So like every job opportunity, every point in life it's always like a learning moment,
Yeah.
right? And you discover a little bit more about yourself, you learn more skills, you gain
Yeah.
more skill sets. Your family's with you through the journey. You're talking all the way through it, and keep working hard, and you get to a place where there's a lot of purpose behind it, which is where
Yeah.
we are right now. Serving all the veterans in Los Angeles County.
You I think seen you in the 5 positions you've had post military is a consistent sense of hope that, and this is one of the things we've learned to measure within the Vector Accelerator program, this sense of hope, and hope not just as a concept but as an actual like thinking process that, okay, tomorrow is going to happen, I'm going to wake up, and the self-reflection of, so what am I going to do tomorrow to make tomorrow better? And there's a sense of optimism, there's a sense of clarity for the future, for goals, things that you want, and then more than anything, like a sense of agency, like so it's up to me, what am I going to do? And I'm curious, given that, and how you've rolled since transitioning, like what is your top advice for transitioning military folks besides play golf?
Well, that takes it off number one, so I guess I'm down to number
Yeah.
two, Scott. No, surround yourself with great people, right? I mean, you try to build your network before you get out, outside the military. Like there are plenty. The one thing that's pulled me through all of this is meeting people,
Yeah.
being open, to new opportunities, like looking to explore. But really, it's been meeting a lot of great people, and when you have a support system, uh, and shoulders to lean on, or people to to get advice from,
Yeah.
and talk through some of these situations, like that's invaluable. And
Can I stop you there for a second? Because I think
yeah,
you've embodied two sides of that. You have not sat around and waited for community to be built for you. You've done two things. You've responded to invitations, like you just said. Even going back to that golf round, there was an
Mhm.
invitation, and you didn't. I mean, it's probably very simple to be like, nah, that's uncomfortable for me. That's a
Mhm.
long way to drive. I don't, or a variety of other reasons to not do that. And then on the second hand, you reach out to people. That's how you and I met. I mean, it's like so both respond to invitations, and two, reach out and make the invitation. Like that's different than waiting back and waiting for things to happen and unfold. That's you taking the initiative to go do it.
Yeah, that there's what about mentors? Always believes in like the power of just saying yes to something, right? I mean, you can always say no if it just doesn't work out, right? But I
Yeah,
mean, when you say yes to something and you start going down that path,
yeah,
uh, if it's awesome, keep going down the path. If it's not,
yeah,
you know, you don't have to go down that path anymore,
yeah.
and that's okay. Um,
That's good.
uh, yeah, and another great piece of advice that our mutual friend Bob always likes to say is uh, in the occasion that you have to say no to some things, it's important to never ever burn a bridge.
Mm, yeah,
Um, it doesn't matter what the situation.
yeah,
You know, you don't burn the bridge. You never know when you have to cross that bridge again,
yeah,
and and it helps you maintain relationships too. And if something doesn't work out, it can always be positive on the other side. Just because it didn't work out doesn't mean it's not going to be a positive experience.
yeah.
It's a learning experience. Everyone learns something from from an experience, and I've tried to live by those couple things, which has helped me maintain good relationships, even through those
Yeah.
multiple transitions, different positions and jobs.
Well, what's remained consistent in addition to what you just shared about you like pursuing the relationship and has been your disposition to serving others. And I just heard you say that earlier, like that pulled you out of whatever the funk or whatever the disorientation
Hmm.
the two of you were in LA. Like, what are we doing here? And why are we here? It's like, I don't know, but let's look for opportunities to serve and connect. Like that's been real consistent in your life. And that's a segue. You started off sharing this about what you're doing now. And I, for the life of me, I'm trying so hard. Is it Heritage Warrior Foundation? Is it?
Warrior Heritage Foundation.
All right. W.
You'll get it right. You'll get it right one of these
No.
days, Scott. When
WHM.
we
WTF. All right. So you've got this opportunity in LA. What's the big vision? What are you all trying to do?
Okay. Well, so I'm working with my great friend Justin Garza, who is actually also a former Navy SEAL, but he was patient zero of With Your Shield. Him and his wife
Right.
Patricia, they were the very first signups of that program ever.
That's cool.
So here we are coming full circle. So he's the executive director. I'm the director of development for Warrior Heritage Foundation, and our mission specifically is to empower service members, veterans, and their families to successfully integrate into Los Angeles County and become integral leaders in their respective communities.
Cool.
And we have four main goals that we're working on right now. We're working with the county in particular, and they have allowed us to utilize Bob Hope Patriotic Hall in downtown Los Angeles.
What?
It is actually the last standing war memorial
Huh,
in the county.
no way.
Yeah, it turns 100 years old next year, and is going to be a national historical landmark
Whoa.
starting next month.
Hmm.
So, gorgeous building. Used to be the tallest building in Los Angeles. It's 10 stories high,
Huh.
but it's been very underutilized, both by the military population and by the civilian population.
Yeah.
So we want to get good positive vibes back in the building. So that's like goal number one, is to
That's a
get
good goal.
people into Bob Hope Patriotic Hall, because it is gorgeous. I mean, we even have things in there, like we have a 100+ volume collection of, and it's one of 3 copies of original Civil War battle plans
Wow.
in existence. We have General Omar Bradley's desk.
Huh.
Right. And we have all these artifacts and all these stories that need to be told. So that's what we're going to work on, is tell the stories of Bob Hope Patriotic Hall and how veterans have shaped the landscape of Los Angeles County. We are going to reboot a transition program, a family transition program,
Nice.
for our conventional forces up here in Los Angeles County. And we'd like to establish a communications platform to help mobilize veteran voices and tell the important stories of success, because anecdotes are always very powerful, right? They're a
Yeah.
powerful tool to help other service members transition. It's like, oh, I hear that person's story now. I know I can
Yeah.
accomplish that as well. And then eventually, probably a couple of years down the road, we'd like to do establish a wellness center within Bob Hope Patriotic Hall, so that our service members and veterans are physically and mentally the best that they can be, feel the best that they can be, so they can be the best version of themselves,
Yeah.
in the home, in the office, and in their communities.
Yeah.
So those are our four main things that we're going to be working on for the next couple of years.
That's awesome. I'm picturing indoor golf simulators potentially in that wellness center.
That was brought up, actually, Scott. It was brought up pretty recently. It was. And then you asked about the vision as a whole. Like, that's really the mission and the specific things. But the landscape of or even just being labeled as a veteran, sometimes has a negative stigma for people these days, right? I mean, everyone's like, "Thank you for your service," but when the general population thinks about veteran, they'll typically think of like an at-risk population, or maybe an at-risk individual, right? You think about the homeless issue, or veteran suicide, which is a crisis in itself at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's obviously two incredibly important issues to focus on, right? And eradicate those as much as we possibly can. But the little told stories are the ones of success, like how veterans are legitimately changing the landscape and being and integral leaders, in their communities across the country.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to be focusing on.
Yeah.
The Warrior Heritage Foundation is changing the landscape of how people view what it means to be a veteran.
Yeah. And I love that, because that actually brings a sense of expectation to the transitioning veteran. Folks like you who are saying, hey, we expect big things because look at these big things that have been done and are being done currently by folks from your community. And I like that expectation. I think the veterans that I've come across like to rise to those, high expectations of them, and which is very different than saying like, we don't expect much from you and we're here to help you poor little people. Like, rather flip that script and say, no, do big things, do great things, just do it in a different context.
Exactly. And every service member has the capability to do it, right? You all have the intangibles. Everyone has the intangibles to do it in the military. So it'll be, it's a huge, it's a huge project, of course. Lofty, but you eat the elephant one bite at a time. Start little and start scaling it out. So, but it starts just by helping small pools of veterans and making a big difference.
Well, Greg, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for your friendship. Love what you guys are doing. Can't wait to continue to roll up our sleeves together and serve more folks, and at least meet halfway in Orange County to play some golf.
We should. We'll take the train, meet halfway, do something. Scott, thank you for having me. And I have no doubt that Vector's going to be just as successful as your previous ventures have been, and you're always doing great things. Not just for service members and veterans, but for families and kids across the country. So Scott, you've done amazing things, and I just appreciate your friendship as well.
Thanks, buddy. See you soon.
Okay, bye.